we live? We're live. Not like live, but we're like live as far as StreamYard. This is like being recorded. So welcome to Real Estate vs. Technology Unleashed. Want to go ahead and remind you, like the episode, subscribe to the notification bell. New episodes Friday, 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. Unleashed is like unleashed, where we're after hours and drinking a high noon. So cheers. And so is our guest. Let's go ahead and change the camera angle so you can see who we have here on today's episode. Can I figure this out? I think I got it. Here we go. Camera angle number 2. What is going on? We have the power couple with us. I'm going to take these headphones off because I feel kind of like weird. So Travis, Neessa, what's up? The Farris team crushing it. And gotta say, first off, congratulations on all your success. And it was funny because I remember we were just talking, and then Travis is like, yeah, I'm coming out to Gilbert. I'm like, what? Come on to Gilbert. I said, dude, we got to like podcast first. I was like, hey, stay at our Airbnb. It's all good. You have a newborn. No big deal. 7 weeks old. So, you know, it is what it is. Don't even have the daughters here at all. Like, my daughter's super upset about that. Not really.
I know, rude.
Right? What is going on? So Travis, you've already been on the show, right? You've done combined over $500 million. You have over 100 agents from Colorado to Hawaii. I saw your clip on your Instagram. Shout out. I see you're crushing it on stage, doing your thing. Neessa, let's get into like your story a little bit. So tell us about like why real estate, how real estate, and like were you both doing it? How did you do all the things you're doing now? Like what's the lead up with that?
I mean, she was working, and I'll let her flow right into it. So realistically, I was jamming in real estate, and she was in escrow and doing much stuff there.
Were you serving her deals? Like, hey, I got.
Well, actually, she was
she your preferred?
Fidelity National Title, which at the time, like the place that I was working, did love that company.
Okay.
But realistically,
but that was your preferred because you're like kind of like had the hots for her, or what?
I mean, so yeah, we've been together for a long time since we were like.
I see that 2007, right?
Yes.
I saw that.
2007.
But anyway, to fast forward into real estate, she plugged into our world, and that's where things exploded. I mean, we met in college. You can kind of tell about that, but that's all I was going to say is she plugged into our stuff and helped us double or triple our business.
So Travis, just wanted to say that like she is the key. So tell us, Neessa. So did you always want to get into real estate? So you're doing like the transaction coordination stuff and like TC stuff behind the scenes kind of before? Or?
I mean, kind of. So we were just in college. He was getting licensed right away, and we needed money. And
so you already knew each other at this time?
Yes, we met in college.
Okay.
And we were pretty serious. We were living together. And so we knew we wanted to stay in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And so he was getting licensed, and we just kind of needed a steady paycheck.
That ass, you went to freaking college in Hawaii? That's awesome.
We both did. That's where we met.
What's the major here? What are you studying?
What were you studying?
Entrepreneurial studies, international business.
Both of you? That's
no, me. She was.
I was kind of a hot mess.
Yeah, English.
Whatever.
I was pretty much just going to school I was on a competitive cheer scholarship.
Okay.
So I was hopping around to schools based on the cheer teams, essentially, is what was happening. I don't know if anybody watches Netflix Cheer, but it was very similar to that world.
Okay.
We were.
Go watch an episode. We'll figure out
go watch Netflix Cheer, and that's kind of what we were doing. And so we graduated, and then we knew we wanted to stay in Hawaii. Travis was bartending at the time, and he had clients, or I guess, what do you call regulars, sorry, that came into the bar all the time that worked in the clerk position of an escrow company.
Okay.
And they were like, hey, we're looking for like a clerk, which is literally someone who sits in the very back room and like just does like really boring paperwork of title and escrow, which is really, really boring. But I needed a job, so I went in. And when I went in, on the way down for my interview, I didn't know that at the time, the gentleman I got into the elevator with was the president of the company.
Holy cow.
And he's like, what's your story? And I'm like, oh, my husband's getting into real estate, or my boyfriend at the time was getting into real estate. And, you know, I'm just looking to learn as much as I can. And I pretty much gave him this like elevator speech, if you will, from the 36th floor to the bottom floor.
Wow.
And then I got a phone call probably 20 minutes later being like, hi, my name's Shireen Duncan. I'm from Fidelity National Title, and we want to offer you a position in the marketing department. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll take it. I know, isn't that gnarly?
That's
and I
awesome.
had no experience. I didn't go to school for that or anything, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was just very eager, and
this guy And showing up as you,
yeah,
right?
totally. I had no idea.
When you take all titles down and you just like show up as your true authentic self, it's so cool how things can happen like that. That's sick.
And so they took a chance on me, and I jumped into title and escrow, which can be pretty boring.
I can imagine.
But I got to learn a bunch of things in the sales and marketing department and transaction coordinating, like you said. But mostly what I got to see was how realtors were marketing themselves, which was incredibly boring. In 2010, I was like, oh my God, postcards. Like I was literally putting postage on like 5,000 postcards a week, and I just couldn't believe this is what people were doing to market to consumers.
Yeah.
I also saw that all the realtors in the area were marketing to like one specific area, which was like the ritzy, nice, high luxury. We're in Hawaii.
All doing the same thing.
Yeah, the exact same
thing.
And so I'm like, I told Travis right away, I was like, what you need to do is go west, which is West Oahu, because nobody was marketing there, because it was I don't know, less than at the time. It wasn't the cool trendy market. Yeah,
definitely stigma.
it was like $400,000 homes versus these $1 million properties that people were pushing, but no one was marketing. So I was like, do it. And then I also said, we have to go online. Like it's just, this is insane that these realtors are not going online. And so that's kind of how we started marketing super hard.
Oh my God. No wonder she's a rock star. She's giving you inside, like, this is what's up. You got to do this. Like, that's clutch.
She's giving the overview too. So, because I remember like when I first got in and she got started, like escrow used to always do their top producer parties.
Okay.
And I remember like that was one of the things that she was doing. And she's like, hey, I'm putting on this event at the country club. And I was like, okay, well, cool. Like, can I go? And she's like, no, it's only for top producers. And like, it was just like, wah. You know what I mean? Just insane. So, but yeah, she's definitely been kind of spearheading a lot of our branding and marketing stuff early on.
Wow.
And then she can go into like how it was TC. And it was kind of like, I mean, jamming from home. Like it was like we were jamming in an office side by side. I was putting deals in and she was TCing them later on. And that then just kind of kept growing from there.
That's super, super cool. So then did the executive or like the president ever reach back out to you? Did you ever have any contact before or like communication before? Did they ever say like, all right, like your boyfriend's going to send all the deals, right? Or like, did you ever talk to him before after that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was very fortunate to be mentored by a bunch of awesome people after that. And I'm still friends with him on Facebook, and I write him all the time saying, thank you for the essentially.
Yeah.
He still works for him too, right?
I don't know. He might be in California or somewhere else, but it's just Hawaii's a very tight knit.
Yeah.
I don't know who.
I can imagine.
Who, you know, who's who, or who your parents are, or where'd you go to school, and so the fact that, because Travis and I are both not from Hawaii, that we were able to break through into the industry, I really am thankful for him. So. Wow.
And so, what island?
We were on Oahu, which is the most populated island, which sounds like you and your wife go to Hawaii.
So
a bit.
we go to Kauai.
Okay.
Kauai is our choice. We have a timeshare, so we went there earlier this year, and then we actually did the first podcast episode ever in Hawaii at the resort, and we actually had Derek with the core team came over that.
Cool.
And so it was really fun to be able to do that and to be able to like travel and have fun and like do what you love, like with the podcast thing and be there, which is really cool. And then actually when we were there, I met a buddy of mine. So we're on the beach. My daughter is playing with these two boys. So we're like, okay, that's cool, whatever. And the mom comes over, and the mom is literally have like a newborn, like 2-3 weeks old.
Okay,
cool, no big deal. And the next thing you know, I see this guy come over, and I'm like, he looks really familiar. And he like looked at me, and he's like, you look really familiar. And then we talked a little bit and finally got to the point where it was just like, oh, you're Greg. Oh my God, I haven't seen you for like 20 something years.
Oh, really?
And my mom's best friend used to watch both of us when we were in like, I don't know, middle school, 7, 8, 9, like super young, right? So next thing you know, we find out that they just bought a house there. They have a custom home being built up in Washington. Okay. And then he owns a Fortune 100 company it's called White Rabbit Group. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, this is crazy. Like, talk about like divine intervention, like how it like, and my daughter hit it off so well with his two sons. And like, so now he's like, you got to come back. And then we went back and forth and just talking about business stuff and having Zooms every so often. But you never know. Cool. You never know.
Cool. That's super cool.
So it's almost in Kauai at all things, like at a beach, like the day and a half before we were leaving or something like that. So we only had like, I think it was like the day before leaving. So we left the next day because we were there all day for like that next day, but leaving that evening. Okay. And so we had that opportunity to chat and hang out and like go to their house and all the things. And so it was wow type of moment for sure. So we're getting called to go there, but I like what Travis is talking about as far as having an Airbnb in different places and then like picking where you want to go. So that way you can have passive income coming and then you can block it off for your team or yourself and whatnot, which is really cool. So, wow, that's super interesting. So then
totally different vibe than Kauai though. So we were on Oahu in Honolulu essentially at the time. We eventually ventured out to West Side, but for the most part, we were getting started. We were on Oahu.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So then like you're doing that, you're going to school, both of you. At what point did you have like that, all right, aha moment, clicked, we're done with the school thing, right? And then I'm sure that maybe happened first, I'm thinking. And then it was like, Neessa's like, okay, like I'm gonna come join you and get my license. Like how did that even transpire?
Yeah, well, we wrapped up college.
Yeah.
Oh, so you finished?
Yeah,
Okay.
I finished college.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. As a joke, when I interview people, I say, if you'd like to show me your diploma, you can at this point, just because I think in our world today, it's not a necessity. But anyways, we wrapped up college and we were kind of like, where do we want to enter in this life thing? And again, like Neessa said, we definitely want to stay in Hawaii, which is an expensive place. So we're like, all right, well, we've got to make money. And it was kind of like personal training and real estate were like two options that we were looking at. And we kind of went into different ways and then came back through and kind of started going. So, wow.
Yeah, totally. And I think Trav joined a team because I think a lot of new agents do. Yeah. And then he just started to take off, like just all these deals on his own. And so he eventually was like, I'm going to go out on my own. And then there was a time when he was just like, he's a brand new agent. He's like, I've got like 10 deals in escrow right now. Like you should join me, which let's go. I was like, I don't know. Let's see. And we wanted to move to the west side of the island, which was kind of far from where I was working anyway. So I was like, okay, well, if we move and buy a house, I don't want to commute into Honolulu every single day. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. And so it kind of, we bought a little townhome on West Oahu and we set up an office space, probably smaller than this room that we're in right now. And we worked next to each other and just like cranked. Like we would wake up in the morning and just get like geeked out on escrows, like just and it was fun.
That's dope.
Like we liked it. And so
giant whiteboard. I love the whiteboard, the escrow tracker.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm really curious. So you're in college. Where was that moment? Like when did you guys first like lay eyes on each other and have that kind of connection moment where you're like, I'm interested in you, or I want to know more, or how did you approach? Like, what was like? I want to like that very beginning, like.
So I mean, this is Unleashed. I'll go.
Let's go.
I'll take this over. I'm sorry. So I was actually full ride scholarship for cheerleading as well because I knew
really
two things. And actually, I went to University of Kentucky on scholarship and then came out to HBU. But I knew two things: that I would get free school, and I'd probably find my wife. And
what?
Yeah, absolutely. Because coming from Alaska, I was born and raised in Alaska. It's like your number one football player will get some sort of crappy D2 scholarship for football. And I was in hockey, soccer, football, like anything you could think of. And I was in gymnastics. And so I knew that I could go through the cheerleading route and get free schools. Anyways, that took us on a fun, long road. Every year you'd have new cheerleaders that would kind of come in. So I went to HPU the year before Neessa got there.
I love this.
And so we knew that there was new people coming. And I remember we kind of had like the party condo, I guess you could say, in Hawaii. And one of our friends like came and like had picked up Neessa from the airport, I think, or whatever. And I was getting off work. And like, I remember the elevator door opened and my buddy T and Neessa were standing there. And then we kind of just like saw each other. And I think I just made a funny like inner communication exchange with them. And then the elevator doors were closing and Neessa's like, do we know him? And it's like, you will. So,
dude.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
It was an elevator.
But
an elevator pitch. Like literally an elevator.
Yeah, keep getting now that I'm seeing this trend. It was an elevator.
Dude, that is like, I feel like it's like you knew, right? And I think that like that's where success comes from. Like when you know and you like draw the line in the sand, so this is what's going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. You get it. And like, here's living proof. We have a power couple here that's now done so many things to have so much success in so many different arenas and to geek out on something together, which my wife and I were starting to geek out on some stuff together in the house hacking and Airbnb and fix and flip world, but come from a completely different background. And it doesn't matter what your story is. It's just great when you find that thing and find each other and have this opportunity to be able to just like love on each other and do what you do. So did you want to add anything to that, or is that sum it up?
That's pretty much it.
Is that it?
That's how we started rocking and rolling.
Okay, now you're geeking out.
Now we're geeking out on escrows.
You're geeking out on escrows.
So
you're doing
jacked.
your thing. You're so jacked. Like, did you sit down and like have a board and write it out and say, this is the goal. This is where we're going. Like, were you always super clear and focused, or was it like at that point you're just geeking out and like closing deals?
Yeah. So there's a couple, there's so much that goes into the question. I guess it's a loaded question.
Yeah, of course.
One point, and this is something that Neessa has said actually a lot of times, which totally makes sense, is like find a mentor and don't be afraid to outgrow them. And it was kind of what we did, because like I did plug into a team and I had real estate mentors, and one of the things that I did is like, I guess I come from Alaska, like oil field working family, like hard worker. So I was grinding. And one of the things that I did, and this is like a huge point, is like I never told, and actually for a long time we had a rule that I never told anyone besides Neessa how many escrows I had going.
Really?
Because I always wanted to look like I could handle more. And so like when I'm in the office walking around, you had a bunch of these agents that were kind of walking around like, I don't know if they necessarily didn't want to like work or whatever, but like they were always like, oh, I'll give Travis this deal. Like,
what?
Yeah. And so I never told anyone how busy I really was. And because people would be like, oh dude, hey, I don't really want to go out this weekend. Can you take this buyer? And I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. And I never said no. And I always said, give me more. Wow. And I remember like there was one time where somebody was like, and I was by myself, and Neessa was TCing the files, to where at one point someone was like, how many escrows do you have right now? And again, I was like pretty new, and I was like, 17. And they were like, what? Because I just never told anyone or showed anyone. And actually I learned that from bartending, to always look not busy, like you could handle, you know what I mean? Even though like sometimes you're geeking out and you're like, oh my God, I can't handle anything else, but you just kind of keep it in composure.
Figure it out.
So
I mean, you talk to a lot of agents too. So like people get into the industry and they get like pumped, you know what I mean? Because they start making money and then they start to see the potential, and it's really like your business can go to wherever you want to take it.
Of course, yeah.
So that's kind of like what started to happen, to where we're like, how big can we get?
Wow.
And I just remember kind of like, I think it was one time we had like 24 escrows, and it was both of us, and it was just us. There's no team, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, we really start to need some help. Well, the second you start to like gather a team, if you will, and start to like look for agents, it's a totally different game. And we had no idea what we're doing, and we're super young. And so should we have been leading the way we were? Probably not, but we just jumped in and started just like hiring like crazy. Because at this point, we think we're invincible, right? Like, because you talk to a lot of agents, and so we're super jacked. Everything's going good. It's just us. We're like, let's start a team and take over the world.
Wow,
is essentially what happened.
And I think the one thing that you always probably hear people say that we would say is, we're going to do it different. You know what I mean? Like, and you know what I mean? Like, we're going to do a team and we're going to run it different. Like, you know what I mean? And there's so many learning lessons, like, ups, downs, blow ups, bad hires, good hires.
Things we did wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, fail forward, absolutely.
That's awesome. I mean, you fell forward.
Totally. And I think from there we started to kind of shift into, I mean, you can go watch Trav's episode, because I'm sure he talked about it. So we went from small team to a bigger team to a brokerage, and then that was just kind of the path until it just wasn't. And I think one of the things that makes our life very unique right now is that like I'm really out of production. And when you talk to a lot of team agents, like, or leads, they're not out of production. They are still grinding and selling. And I think what's very unique about us is that we might not be the number one team in our marketplaces, but I mean, we really do have a lot of freedom, and deals close. And I'm like, I didn't have anything to do with that client, but I know that they were taken care of. And so I think that's kind of like our flex right now, because we have a 7-week-old and an almost 2-year-old, and it's that we're not in the grind, but we have pretty good numbers.
That's
Again,
huge.
Are we number one? No, but we are pretty decent in our marketplaces to where it feels good to just run the type of business that we run.
Yeah,
That's huge.
There's a lot of unpacking that comes with that.
Of course.
In
Yeah,
terms
totally.
of, again, brokerage, blowing up teams, to where we checked our ego, to where we were chasing and shooting for vanity metrics, and we were shooting for number one, and we actually got pretty close, but we were miserable. We weren't very profitable, because that's our flex right now is profitability, to where when you're shooting for number one and you're getting close, again, you're miserable, you're running around like crazy, you're not making the money you think you'd be making, and then you're also in everyone's crosshairs, to where not because we let things happen organically and we're definitely growing and pushing, but we almost kind of stay out of the crosshairs, and we're making more money now than we ever were shooting for number one.
Love it.
And we're, again, just 2 steps below the radar, so that people don't want to come and hunt us down. So
Totally.
I love that. So I can hear it right now. Someone's listening, someone's watching. If you're listening, you want to watch, youtube.com. And they're like, okay, we're a couple.
Yeah.
We're on fire. We want to hire. We're at that exact place in time. So what's 2 things from Neessa and 2 things from Travis that you could give our audience right now that you learned, that you would say, these are the things to look out for? And I know you said ego is one of the things that you said. So start with Neessa, what are 2 things that you would give listeners? They're a couple, they're on fire, they're at that exact place in time.
Totally. So you have to super trust your partner, right? So the real estate industry is just kind of weird anyway. It's filled with very pretty females and very pretty people in general.
Yes.
So I have to be cool with him, literally spending all day and all night trading up hot chick agents. You gotta be cool with that, because those agents can help you leverage and help you make money and actually really just help you in life in general. And we have a pretty good looking team, I'd like to think. And so you need to be able to be cool with that. Because if you have issues in your relationship, it's just gonna show on the teeth. You know what I mean? So true. And so that's number one for girls or boys or whatever the situation is. If you're going to partner with your spouse and your significant other, you got to trust them full-heartedly and let them go to cocktail parties with other chicks. You know what I mean?
I love that.
So that's number one for sure. And I think the second one for me too is at this point, whenever we make a decision, it's I'm literally is it going to give me more time, or is it going to increase our profit? Which, when you're in real estate, a lot of time you're trying to win awards or achieve things that aren't gonna really bring you to what you really want in life, which is, for me as a mom, is time or money.
I love that.
I mean? And I think that's really 2 good nuggets for a couple out there.
That's huge. That's huge. Trav, what you got?
Yeah, and it's, kind of what Neessa was saying. One of our mentors, Tim Story, basically said that everything has price tags. So it's, when you go into something, you've just got to know what the price tags are. I've never actually thought about being around, because I guess as leaders, you bring such an energy that the energy about being around females isn't even there. I'm pretty sure everyone thinks I'm a really nice guy, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure they're man, that Travis is a really intense, genuine, passionate person, but he's also maybe, I don't want to say a-hole. Yeah. Maybe, it just in terms of we lead, and that's the energy that we lead with. Checking your ego, again, making sure that you're not just chasing vanity metrics. Again, number one, what's the price tag? And it's our old business partner actually at the time, he is number one, and we essentially saw behind that curtain the price tags, and we were I don't want to put my head down. And again, it's kind of a different way, because real estate, versus tech that we're talking about today, it's a different game, it's a different world. So utilizing, and that's the thing where everyone was kind of telling us, as younger business owners, well, if you put your head down and work for 30 years, you'll be there. And we're we're going to be there in 5. And you know what I mean? And that was us, to where the world's different. It's a different game. And then the other one is who, I think it was Ray Dalio, or, Traction. He also talks about, also what Good to Great.
Love it.
Can't remember. He basically talks about who. So our team, once we checked our ego and started building right and doing things right and searching for profitability and finding the right place and finding the right home and building this happy, sustainable lifestyle, obviously still with ups and downs. the people that are surrounded, and we have people that are with us for like, approaching 10 years.
Wow.
So when you actually are like, okay, well, you can create a world that's big enough for them to come and flourish and function. Like one of our gals, Taylor, so we kind of like pushed her and urged her to start her own marketing company. We're like, hey, you were doing our marketing for a long time. You need to start your own marketing kind of company and graphic design to help these agents further. So everyone that plugs in with us or comes into our world, we actually look at them and it's not for everyone, but we try to grow people past their comfort zone. And sometimes it's not the right place for them, but sometimes it is. So it's the team that's around us now. We could have gone through 10 different people to find that one. So it's constantly searching for talent, searching for rock stars, and it's the who problem. Again, they basically say like every problem in your life is a who problem, not necessarily a what, so someone can come and solve it. So again, it's just constantly looking for people to come into your world. And essentially when I hire somebody to come into my world, it's not so I can tell them what to do, it's so they can tell me what to do.
Ooh, I like that. So we are on Unleashed podcast, Real Estate vs. Tech. So now we're live.
Oh, we're live.
So we're live on Real Estate vs. Technology's IG page.
Word.
So if anyone wanted to check out we're not going to give them everything, but we're going to share this with a few people. And I love that, Travis. I think that's really good insights. And then since you did talk something about real estate versus technology, and Neessa, you were talking about technology from the beginning, and how postcards were a big thing, and farming was a big thing, and niche down in the area is a big thing. So what has changed and evolved with technology over the years within your business?
Well, let's see. So basically, just to be blunt, there's an equation to like pushing out numbers in a real estate team. It's like lead spend plus the agents that you have, and then like your conversion rate and like what you're putting in.
Love it.
And I think that now what's kind of shifting with like Zillow and social media and everything that's happening in the world today is that it's being disrupted big time.
Yeah.
To where for us, I think we're in the, I think realtors really put their flag down and say, this is what I'm going to do for the next 15 years. And I'm going to build a business and it's going to look like this, to where we're just kind of like, we're riding the wave, because you don't know where the world's going in 5 or 10 years.
No idea.
I don't see real estate being what it is right now. And for us, we just want to be completely, whatever the masses are doing, we want to be completely different. So like right now, you just see a ton of realtors getting on and doing videos with the words that are popping up, talking about pre-approvals and all this stuff, which, we did that and we want to be informative and educational, but at the same time, we're like, well, what we really need to be doing is getting in front of clients, people who want to buy and sell, and just helping agents achieve that. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Is being different.
It's always different. And that's because I talked about Neessa basically in like 2010, 11, pushing us to Facebook and Instagram and pushing our content out through there, which at the time was innovative and pushing the limits. So again, it's technology is changing so fast to where even like ChatGPT and some of these AIs, it's like, again, when the masses do one thing, the masters do another.
Ooh.
And it's like even the green screen. So when I see people pushing stuff out on the green screen, like you have to be shopping for, and again, I think Gary Vee, I think he said this probably like 10 years ago, but you almost need to be shopping like 5 to 10 newer platforms and kind of like familiarizing yourself with one in case one takes off.
Yeah.
Instead of, again, being a real estate agent in front of a green screen talking, the algorithm loves that, but now the masses are already picking up on it. So it's all about shopping for the speed of technology in terms of what you can do to be different, instead of, again, I think we talked about it too, like YouTube, like the talking head on YouTube, which I am super pushing out right now
I see you.
In the midst of, the red ocean, again, read Blue Ocean Strategy. I have my entire team reading it, is how can you change the market? And actually there's billion and trillion dollar industries now that didn't exist 30 and 40 years ago. That is kind of where my head's always at with real estate. Like Neessa said, real estate won't be here in the same level in 5 or 10 years. how do we stay ahead of that? You know what I mean? And there's ways to do it. Just you got to change the industry.
Yeah, I love that. And like to your point, like you're not transacting anymore. So your team does what the team does.
Yes.
You could watch the metrics, see what's going on. I think anyone who's listening and viewing right now, right, is like to think about like what is next, because you can transact for so long, and now you're seeing the EXPs, you're seeing the reels of the world, and you're seeing that these mega downlines.
Yes.
So Mike Shard's a friend of mine with EXP, and so he's showing me, and he's like, get your real estate license, Storm. We'll get you in front of 6,000 people, no problem. This other thing. I'm like, oh, that's kind of tempting, right? Then he's like showing me that he's doing $101,000 a month just off his downline.
Yes.
And that's not even transacting or anything, because he's not even transacting. So now you're as a real estate agent who's watching this, it's like, okay, you could build a team, do what you're doing, and not to say that you can't do the downline thing, which you guys with the EXP, I'm sure you're doing as well. It's like, do you build a portfolio? Like our co-host Dan Gandy's building a portfolio. He wants doors. His exit in real estate is passive residual income from real estate itself. Not even building a downline, which he is. He's with Real. He used to be with EXP. Shout out to our co-host. This is going to be our in-person studio, so he's not here with us today on the in-person stuff. We actually tried that. We tried to have him on the screen. Too much tech, didn't really work.
Yeah, I get you.
It just wasn't as personal, right, as when you're in person. And so I feel like it's changing even for like Liftoff, who sponsors the show. Like it's different because now agents are building these downlines. They're starting marketing companies. They're offering services to their own downline.
Yes.
And then they're getting multiple streams of revenue, which is like, I don't want to say I feel threatened. I just feel like, oh, well, shit, do I need to get my real estate license? Do I need to play too? Because of the fact that they're doing that, even though I want to be unbiased, I want to be behind the scenes. I want to listen. I want to learn. I want to understand. So what are your thoughts as far as like some of these new business models, the EXPs and the reels that are coming out, and like building these downlines and these different passive income streams? I mean, even like coaching these agents and like to subscription models. Like, I mean, Trav, I know you and I talked about this a little bit. Neessa, you want to chime in with some of your thoughts, but.
So, these models, which we believe in heavily because we invest heavily in that, we're playing that game. If you're not an attractor, it's not, I don't know, Trav might think a little differently than me, but there's times when like he's talking to agents and stuff and I'm just kind of looking at them like, if they aren't building a team and if they aren't really in the like marketing and attracting game, then these models are not going to excite them. If you're not excited to attract agents, then like it's just, and I mean, half the industry is like that right now. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, and I mean, it's like
a lot of industry doesn't want to attract.
But to talk about it for a second, I mean, like, because to be funny, again, like people try to recruit us all the time.
Of course.
And so like, I'm sorry if you're a recruiter, like hitting the phones, but like I'll set appointments on purpose just to like have 5 minutes with this person to be like, hey, usually just to flip the script on them.
Yeah.
And I had this like big time KW agent that I was like, sure, yeah, I'll take the phone call with you. They're like, okay, well, I'm calling on behalf of so-and-so. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's chat. And so I always get on the phone and like start flipping the script and it usually ruffles people's feathers. But this agent was basically like, I don't want to recruit. And I'm like, what am I doing on this call right now? Like, and so that's the thing. If you're at a standard, we'll call it the standard model of real estate to be nice. So if you're at a standard model of real estate and you want to build a team, what do you have to do to build a team?
Yeah.
Like you have to either recruit or attract or build. Like, and if you're not going to do those things, you're not going to have a real estate team. So there's this stigma that kind of sometimes that, and again, all companies, not EXP or Real, all companies can do it wrong, but there kind of is a stigma around like the recruiting and aspect. But the fact is, like, it doesn't matter where you are, you have to build. If you are a broker owner and you want to, and you're at a, what is Realogy just rebranded to, what is it called? Homes?
Yeah.
Something like that. I can't remember. Realogy, former. If you are a broker owner at one of those companies, in order to get agents, you recruit and you attract. So yeah, absolutely what Neessa's saying, it's
a different game though.
Well, they're different businesses.
Yeah, they are.
And that's where I literally have a giant whiteboard that has my flow chart, and it's like real estate flow chart, and then the building flow chart, and exactly what you said, to where you almost look at the organization like Mike Sherrard too, and it's a business. I mean, it's TC, branding, marketing, coaching, mentorship. I mean, it is a full-fledged, value drive to where how can I provide these people with a lot of value, which again, if you're a broker owner at another company, you doing? You have to have a value drive, or people will leave. So.
Wow, that's so interesting. The game is changing definitely in that regard too, because like it's like, okay, I want to focus on building a real estate business, and then like do you do that, and then you bring in a team, and at what point do you just do the recording? It's like, are you just doing recruiting now? Is that because you're out of production? It sounds like majority of what you're doing now is that recruiting and building that downline. Is that what the focus is now for you?
50-50.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, we make sure the team's still producing, because that's what we say. Like I literally say, we're a sales first organization.
Do you want them to recruit though? Is that something that you put
Absolutely.
on them?
We want them to share. So when we say,
okay.
hey, plug in with us, I want your life to change. That's my goal. Like we have core values that we function by.
I love it.
I want you to plug in with us to our world, your world change, and probably change your life. And then when your life changes, you'll probably go to people at these other places and say, dude, this place changed my life. That's it. It's come here, sell real estate, people will see it type thing. It's not a plug in with us, make 10 calls to 10 agents. Like no, we don't run that at all. Sorry.
I love that. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I like the core values, the foundation, like let's change your life. And then as soon as that happens, like, it's in any business, right? It's like and it's weird, almost like for myself as well. And I say this as humbly as possible, like it was like a paradigm shift. And all of a sudden now it's like opportunities and things are coming up. And it's like, what? Like,
totally.
Did someone just hit the fast forward button right now? Because like, I really feel like I'm on fast forward right now. And then they watch your stories and they see your lifestyle, and they see what you drive and where you live and what you're doing and how you're traveling. And then it's just like, how do you not attract?
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like, it's almost like an inevitable. So would you recommend anyone who's watching or listening right now that they first have success in their own right, and then get to that moment of like, okay, I've now had this success, I'm at this pivotal point to then say I'm ready to start to recruit? Is that what happened with your life, or does it matter? Or
I'm just like so torn about this, because with social media now just being as crazy as it is, I see people who have like not even sold a tenth of what we've sold, or like built a team and blown it up 5 times like we have, pushing out content to where they could appear like an expert. And you know what? They're probably recruiting people. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the metrics on everybody's situation. But
she's doing some skip tracing and
but I do know to retain and to have the good amount of people that we have, and we do a really good job of, we don't pull people in and just spit them out. Like when people come, they usually stay with us. We have really good retention rate.
I love it.
Because
so we're just gonna keep it on. So we're good. Yeah, we're still rolling. So keep going.
But yeah, it's a lot of people that just, what Neessa said is they come in and they essentially talk a big game.
Yeah.
Which is, it's to a certain point, you gotta do that. But we wanted to plug in, sell a ton of real estate. When we sold a ton of real estate, we knew we would learn and master these things.
Yeah.
And then step it up and say, I'm gonna sell 400,000 homes, then 8, then 1 million, then 2 million. Because again, if you're like, I only do luxury, and then you walk into a $2 million home, they're like, how many homes have you sold? If you're like, well, none of this caliber, you just lost the listing. So that's what we always practice, what we preach, to where do first and then teach after. So
I love that. It reminded me of what Ryan Serhant said when he was going to be on $1 Million Listing New York, and they asked like how many homes you sold. He said, oh, a lot. Like they never ask how many. It's just a lot. And if you have that confidence and motivation, you're good. But to your point, Neessa, I feel like there's a lot of people out there. I know I had a little technical difficulty. Sorry. So the little recap / kind of add to what you're saying. It's like there are a lot of smart techie type people that know how to click funnel it or know how to do a podcast or talk a big game and not have the experience. And I feel like it's fine if that's you and you want to do that. That's totally fine because you have the knowledge in that side. But then it's going to be harder when you can't speak to the knowledge of closing so many transactions and the nuances of all the things. Where then, if you're smart on that end, maybe you find a partner that is already a top producer and then you can yin and yang each other. Because I've heard a lot of agents out there that like I'll meet and like they come to lift off and they're like, what the fuck? I'm like, what? They're like, well, I'm in the business for 20, 30 years. I mean, look, I have these numbers, I'm transacting, all the things. Who the fuck is this kid over here?
Totally.
Showing off like he's done all the things and he doesn't know what he's doing.
Totally.
But then it sucks for them because now they're like at like a place where they're like, what do I do? Because I want to be able to have my past experiences and all the efforts and all the people I've served to show through on these social platforms where people are like literally at like the verification thing. I think is so stupid. But that's a whole other story. It's like, come on, you gotta earn that shit. You don't just pay for it.
I'm certified because my account got hacked and replicated so many times.
Mine got shut down, so I understand.
Okay.
I just start all over on Instagram, all over on Facebook, like.
But yeah, I'm with you.
I get it. But yeah, go ahead. I mean,
I think. Oh God, this we could just go down a rabbit hole with this social media stuff, though. You really seriously can because it's just. You really don't know what's going on behind the scenes unless you look at someone's P&L. Like you don't. And again, our greatest accomplishment is that like we can have the steady income that we have. We are steady in a crazy market.
Is she trying to come in there? Honey, are you there? We see you. This is Unleashed. We're live here. Dinner's ready. We have dinner cooking and it smells delicious on top of the fact that we're having some nooners. So go ahead.
Endurance. I think too is like we've been in real estate for 10 years. You look at our Zillow profiles, are we selling 500 homes a year? No, but we're constantly anywhere from 60 to 100. It's steady income. Again, we have a lot of time and we're slowly recruiting agents. And so it's a lot of these influencer types who are going to jump into, I don't know what their endurance is going to be like in 4 or 5 years because it's a long game.
Yeah.
It's a long game.
Yeah.
And social media can just make it look like it's like, I've been in the industry for 3 years with my car and which you don't know what the situation is with their car. They could live with their parents and have the car, which is not a bad thing. I'm not live with your parents, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you don't know what's going on behind social media. And I think that for us, we just try to stay grounded and know that it's like a long game.
Amen. I love that.
For sure.
Yeah. And I feel like anyone who's listening and watching right now, do your homework, do your research. You can go to Zillow.com, look up any agent practically and find out their production volume. You can also like go to a title company and like they're not going to give this to you, but you can take a title rep to lunch and get the top 250 list in the county. And then from there, you can be able to maybe ask questions and talk to top producers and then contrast to someone who's saying or talking a big game on social media. Because at the end of the day, I feel like what sucks the most for someone who's watching, who's new, they don't know the questions to ask. Yeah. And if you don't know what to ask, then you don't know what you're getting into until you're fucking knees deep. And then you're like, oh my God, I just made the wrong decision. And then when you're at EXP and you want to get a new sponsor, you can't. You have to completely dissolve and take so much time, 6 months, a year, whatever, to come back to a new sponsor. Because even our co-host had a sponsor, and I won't drop any names. He's a bigger guy. He's a cold call guy. And this guy's cold call, whatever. He's in the Midwest. Good dude, means well, was on the show, and just not a good sponsor for him. And so then he left EXP, now went to Real, and had to learn the hard way.
Totally.
But I see that you're passionate about that. I like that. We hit a chord.
It matters where you plug in.
Yeah,
for sure.
I love that. So a couple things I want to get into and I'll talk about. We're already 44 minutes in. We're on the live. I'm going to wave to some people. We had George that stopped by and a couple different people on the live here, Real Estate First Technology. Give the Instagram a follow, subscribe to the notification bell for our YouTube channel, and give us some feedback because we want to make sure that you can ask questions, give us some feedback. We'd love to answer any questions that you have. And they reach out to you too if there's anything coming up, if they have any questions.
For sure.
Yeah, reach out. Instagram, social. I don't even worry about that. That's going to be a link down below. We'll get to the handles here in a minute. I got you guys. But what I want to get into before we do end, now you have children. and a team, and you're not getting sleep. And right now you're saying that like, you already said, Trav, like you're not at the level you're normally at.
No.
So how are you balancing all the things?
I mean, it's super caffeinated, and that's like, again, for parents out there, we were actually just talking about this. Like, yeah, I'm normally like super freaking high energy, fire, passionate, which I still am. I can carry it through. But you just hit a different game. And actually, I'll tell you what, it's kind of like you said, like there's fast forward. Like, I mean, I have business deals that are like really good stuff is happening and coming, and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't slept in like 2 months. No kidding.
Totally.
But you plan your steps. You're more strategic. Like I'm like, dude, I'm wrecked. Like normally, if I'm like, okay, well, I won't set the coffee pot like on the night before. It's like, no, that happens the night before. And so you start planning your steps, being more intentional, more strategic, more life by design because you have to. It's like if Neessa's dealing with some other stuff, it's like, you know, I'll be like, okay, cool. I'll clean the kitchen and fill the, it's all hands on deck is basically what we say. But we were talking about it actually on the way here to where like people without kids don't understand. Like it's a completely different game. People with more kids, like I know a couple buddies that have like 6 kids. I'm like, well, I can't complain to you. Like, you know, with 2. So it's like this weird, kids don't understand. People with more kids definitely understand. Yeah. It's a different game. But I guess what we were talking about, like the joy and fulfillment, like it is, you know, we love our kids more than anything on earth. Yeah. But it also puts a little why, you know what I mean? It's like we are hanging on. And again, business deals are definitely happening and coming to fruition more than ever. But once we finally get an 8-hour chunk of sleep, like that next day, we will light the world on fire.
Let's go.
And for people who don't have kids out there, I just want to say, you should crush it. Like, I think that's one thing that if I could go back in time, because we crushed when we didn't have kids, but like, I would have just gone out less and just crushed a little bit more just so that we had a little bit larger nest egg. I mean, we're good, but it's like, if you don't have kids, your life's way easier. Yeah. That's just the truth. And then for people who are in the industry and they have kids, it's like, how much pressure can you take? Like, how much can you take on and like grow? Yeah. If you kind of have that mentality, then like everything that kind of gets thrown at you, you're just kind of like, okay, I'm going to take it, and it's going to just like turn me into this diamond, you know? So it's like, it's perspective. I love that. Because you could just, I know we've had tons of agents who are just tired and haggard and, you know, look at it from a negative perspective where like, I mean, it's like what Trav says, it's an extra why to kind of just rocket you forward. So it's like, how much pressure can you take and can you crush it?
I love that. And it sounds like because you already had that momentum, it was just like, okay, we ride the wave a little bit, especially at like the very beginning stages when you're like every 2 hours waking up and the feeding and all the things.
Crazy.
And so, crazy. And now you go, all right, let's ride that wave a little bit. And then, you know, we only have 1 and she's 4.5 and now she talks back and she's very much like, this is what I want and I want it now and play with me like this. And so one thing that we're encountering is like, you work so hard throughout the day. What I'm learning is to have balance with bandwidth. So don't put yourself too far out throughout the day, where at the end of the day, I feel bad. And I just did a video on this, that I wasn't feeling like I was showing up for my daughter or my wife the way I could be because I'm putting out too much throughout the day. And at the end, I'm gassing out.
Totally.
And I'm like, fuck. All right, well, and then you can't do anything. You have to go back to sleep, start over, do it again the next day. So you can be like, all right, now today I have more energy for you. Not to mention if she doesn't take a nap, it's
totally
game over.
I watched that video of yours on the way over and I was actually thinking like, sometimes you're just, it is what it is. Like right now I'm like all family and Trav's kind of just like pushing through on the business and I'm doing what I can. Yeah. It's just like seasons. Like sometimes you'll go all in on the company and then like sometimes you'll be in a season where it's all about family. And I think that if you could recognize the season and then just write it out and stay positive, you said, love it. And you said, you know, I have gratitude and it's like how you can like move forward. Because life's short, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's a chapter and you don't want the chapters to go by any quicker. No. You know what I mean? But
you don't want to look back and be like, fuck, you know, like totally wasn't there for this or that. And I love it. And it is gratitude. It's like, I think it's a key, right? If you don't have gratitude out there, it's like, even if you don't have much, be grateful for what you do have. So when you do have more success in your life, then you can be like, oh my God, and like it's just so much more worth it. And then one thing that I want to kind of end the show on and is because my wife and I didn't have much, right? And I was talking to Trav, like, this is the first time living in an actual house and not in a complex. 3 years in, very grateful. Now I get to share it with friends and family and all the things. But our daughter's growing up in this reality that we had no idea about, like almost like privilege, right?
Totally.
And now you're going to have your daughters grow up in the same, and you're only going to be more successful and only going to have more places to travel and more, and like, so the thought is, and the question I guess you could say is like, how do you plan on having that balance for your children so they don't just think like, oh, everything's handed to you or you just get whatever, like, and I know that you're at the beginning stages of this.
Totally.
So we're only at a 4-year-old, but still like, she's like, oh, Daddy, we have 4 cars. I'm like, yeah, well, not everyone has 4 vehicles.
Totally.
Like that's not normal, you know? And so we're going to take our child to Philippines coming up here in October, and we're going to be a team out there and show our kids are living and try to give it that contrast. Have you guys thought about that?
What are your thoughts on that?
100%. We have done so much personal development that I have heard of amazing stories about people.
Self-development.
There we go. 53 minutes in. Self-development.
Yay.
Children.
All right, cool. So children. So basically doing so much like personal development and knowing really super successful people and really wealthy people that have kids and they set milestones and markers for their kids. Because it's the concept of if you gave someone running $1 million business, $100,000 business, and the person running $100,000 business, $1 million business, the person running $100,000 business will basically bring the $1 million down, and the person running the $1 million business will bring the $100,000 up. And so psychologically, you're in that to where I've heard people that when they gave their kids the company, they would only give them the amount of money in the inheritance that they have earned themselves. So if they made $1 million, they could then get $1 million of the inheritance. And Warren Buffett, I think, is only leaving his kids with like $1 million each, even though he's a multi-billionaire.
Love that.
Because he said, I gave him plenty and enough.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing for me that I think I'm going to try to set markers around is one of the it sounds terrible, but I went to college and I had student loans. And when I got out of college and I'm broke as hell and I had an $850 a month student loan payment start kicking in, I was like, holy shit, welcome to the real world and welcome to life. I've got to make some money. And so that was one of the driving factors of like, I had to like grow up pretty quick and deal with this obligation that I took on. And I will say that I will probably make our kids go through this a similar. You're going to take student loans, act like I'm not going to pay. The second you see that they like got it, because there was a moment like after a year or two of dealing with it that I got it. I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm making my payments. I got it under control. Once I see that they get it, it'll be like, okay, cool. I'll pay off your student loan. So like just stuff like that to where
I like that.
The learning lessons have to be there. It's not an all out give.
Totally.
Again, coming from a oil field Alaskan family, like hard work is instilled in everything that I'm about.
Yeah.
So there's some like genuine characteristics about me that came from not having everything. And so you want to make sure that they still build those characters and characteristics and what's the word?
Keep them grounded.
Yeah.
Keep them grounded. Limited social media, I think, till a certain age, which is crazy because we're super marketers. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, but it's the truth.
But you're on social media.
I know, totally. But it's true. It's like, and for me, just like both of us, we want them to know where they came from, because they came from a long line of people who like worked their ass off to get Trav and I to where we are, to where, they will always know and be reminded constantly, like, this is where you came from. These are all the people that went through all of this shit so that you can be where you are now. And
wow.
I think that's important.
I love that. No, that's great.
The last is like the Chinese culture.
Yeah.
They look at generations and I'll just say Americans are typically so bad at not looking at generational. They're looking at here now.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how can we get our family to that next step? And then instill in our kids that same thinking of, okay, I was left here. How can I get us to that last step?
I love that.
So
I love that. That's super cool. And that's great for all of you as listeners, great for myself as well, as we're growing and doing our thing. And definitely like that idea, because I was even thinking about like, and we're going through like the living trust and the will, all the things. And I said,
my daughter's husband,
we're back.
If he has a 720 credit score, like
Ooh.
you can actually write in whatever you want.
That's badass. I love that. Yeah. So we were just wrapping up the last couple of thoughts. The internet, of course. Now I'm going to have to take this to the next level, but just whatever. I'll get the handle off air. But yeah, I was just saying at the end, my statement was like, hey, it'd be cool to be able to give the kids the assets, not so much give them cash, as my wife and I are putting together like a living will and trust and figure out what we want to do with that. And so there's so many cool things you could do. And hopefully if you're, successful and have children and can take some tips from that, that'd be awesome for potentially to implement. Cool, whatever. Just like what you're telling me, potentially implement that. So we're at the end of the show. What would you both like to leave our viewers and listeners as we end out in today's show that they can apply to the business to have more success?
How about you?
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
So is just ask the right questions. So like we literally are living the life that we used to pray for, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And now that we're here, like literally everything, we're like, dude, I wish this, I wanted to make this, like this amount of money and run businesses in multiple locations. We're here. So ask better questions, ask the right questions when you're like sitting down and really just be strategic on the questions you're asking, because we asked questions and we got here and we're like, man, like if we could have just tweaked a couple things, which again, we're asking better questions now to get us in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Love that, Neessa.
I don't know. I guess trust your gut, and then just like always just be working on you, and everything else will fall in place. Because you're your greatest asset, I get.
Yeah,
yes, right?
definitely.
100%.
Yeah, and I'll leave it at get in bigger rooms around people that are playing bigger than you.
Totally. Oh yeah, for sure.
Because they'll change your mindset. They'll be asking questions that you could be like, oh, shiznix, maybe I want to ask that question. This question.
Totally. And then don't be afraid to outgrow them.
Ooh, let's go. The nuggets are flowing.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Travis, Neessa, amazing power couple, amazing episode. I appreciate y'all coming on over, getting on the podcast, vibing with us, and it was a pleasure having you both on.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. All the links are down below. Like, follow, subscribe, check them out, send them a DM if you have any questions, want to join a badass team, boom, you got them right here, Farris team. If you enjoyed this episode, like I said at the beginning, please like it, please subscribe, please share it, and please give us your feedback down below so we can be able to add more value, as it is our intention to take things from our episodes, apply to your business, have more massive success. And we'll see you all on the next one.